Today I'd like to continue our journey through chapter 10 of the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus is speaking in the Gospel in this particular section about the importance of confronting certain negative experiences that you're going to have. And really, Jesus is very honest in telling us that this is not going to be easy, that there are going to be many challenges. In verse 24 of chapter 10, he says, "No disciple is above his teacher, no slave above his master." So if Jesus is our teacher and we are trying to be the disciples of Jesus, what happened to Jesus is quite obviously going to happen to us as well. And if Jesus is our master and we're trying to serve and be servant and be slave to Jesus and follow his words of wisdom and his words of joy and his gospel, certainly what happened to the master is going to happen to us as well. And I think just a lot of times in our daily life we kind of forget that. We think, well, I follow Jesus, everything is good. I go to church, I pray for others, I do works of charity. Things are fine, things are good. I'm doing what I should be doing, and it's going to be easy. Jesus is saying, no, it's not easy. It's going to be demanding. And if you really look into the gospel and take the gospel seriously and try to spread that message, there are going to be those who will not accept it. And Jesus is quite clear about that. To expect universal acceptance of the gospel, I think that's never been part of the message of Jesus at all. In verse 25, then he says, "It is enough for the disciple that he becomes like his teacher." So it's good that you follow Jesus and become like Jesus. It is good for the slave that he becomes like his master. So our goal, again, is to be like Jesus as much as we possibly can and to imitate his example, to follow his words. But if they have called the master of the house Beelzebul, how much more those of the household? So Jesus has gone around, he's done miracles, and he's heard the refrain, well, you're casting out demons, but you're doing it as Beelzebul. You really are a demon yourself. So a lot of times when you might do something and think that you're following Jesus, somebody else might be saying, well, are you really following Jesus or are you following the devil? Are you doing it just for your own personal glory and reputation? Really doing that for Jesus? There are people who are going to say that, and Jesus is saying, it happened to me, it's going to happen to you, expect it. Beelzebul, interesting word, perhaps means Lord of the house. It's also translated as Prince of Demons. So Beelzebul is this negative force who is destructive and trying to lead us down a path where we will embrace evil and follow evil and become people that, instead of looking at the good and trying to establish the good, are more interested in our own selfish goals and accomplishments. Classic example would be somebody who is greedy. They have a certain amount of money, but they want more money, and they're not too charitable in giving to those that are in need. That would be an example of Beelzebul. That comes from that sense of evil, that sense that it's all about me and what I can gather in my life, and it's not about helping anybody else. Jesus then, in this next section of chapter 10, talks about courage under persecution. So Jesus has established that there is going to be persecution. It is going to happen. You're going to be challenged. You're going to be called names. You're going to be abandoned. You're going to be spat upon. You're going to be rejected. All of those terrible things that none of us look forward to, obviously. So Jesus says, well, what should we do when there is persecution? So he gets into the importance of having courage where there is persecution. Verse 26, he says, therefore, do not be afraid of them. Nothing is concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be made known. So don't be afraid. It's going to happen. Don't be afraid. All will be revealed at some point. All of the evil that people have done, that will be made known. That will be revealed. Sometimes we see it in this world with certain people who engage in schemes of destruction and they're caught, schemes of corruption and they're brought to justice. We do see that. But of course, there are many people who get away with those schemes as well. Jesus says, don't worry. One day that will all be revealed. It will all come out. And don't get upset about that. Don't be afraid about it. It is going to come to light eventually. The concealed and secret coming of the kingdom will be revealed by the apostles. So as the apostles go out and preach, they are saying the kingdom is here, it is now. The kingdom happens when we love one another, when we love God, we love ourselves, we love our neighbor. The apostles should not be afraid to proclaim this. They shouldn't be intimidated by others. They should be steadfast in proclaiming, because this is the message. The kingdom is here, and this is what the kingdom consists of. It is love for one another. The teaching is not an esoteric one. Teaching is not something that we will fail to comprehend. The teaching is clear. The message is simple. Love God, love your neighbor. I mean, it's not this hidden away message that you must be brilliant and study for years and years to come to. The message is simple, but of course, very challenging. Jesus then says in verse 27, what I say to you in the darkness, speak in the light. What you hear whispered, proclaim on the housetops. So Jesus is speaking it to them. They're to proclaim it. Tell others about it. Let everyone know about it. The teaching should be openly shared. It's for everyone. We don't want the teaching hidden, Jesus is saying. And it's not for a few. It's for everyone. So proclaim it to all. This is the opposite of what we call, at the time of Jesus and in the first few centuries of Christianity, the mystery religions, which were secret, which involved rituals that were done in darkness, and it was really for a few special people, similar to the Gnostics. There was this idea of this special knowledge that gave you power over other people. And Jesus says, no, this message of the gospel, this is for everyone, this is for all. You don't need a doctorate to have this message. You don't need to be at this great level. It's for all. It's a simple message. Kingdom is here, and the kingdom consists of love of God and love of others. Then Jesus says in verse 28, and do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. So there are people who can kill the body. There are people who can take a gun, a knife, and rocks, and whatever, and just destroy the body. But don't be afraid of that. How are they ever able to destroy the soul of a person? We've seen this time and time again in history, where people with courage stand up against those who are going to kill the body, and so they kill them. But their message of faith, their message of love, their message of caring, that message, it lives on. So the body has been destroyed, but not the soul. And this do not be afraid is now found a second time. We saw it in verse 26. We see it again in verse 28. So this becomes an echo in Matthew. Do not be afraid. And this body and soul dualism that Matthew mentions here is really not found in the Hebrew scriptures. It's kind of a Greek construct. The idea in the Hebrew scriptures was always the person. And the person had, of course, the physical and spiritual dynamic, but it was in the sense of the one person. But there was no sense in terms of the dualism. So what do we see here? We see Jesus acknowledging that there is going to be persecution and giving the antidote, which is the importance of courage. So Jesus is giving us the strength, saying, I will be with you. Do not be afraid. So continue to proclaim the kingdom, continue to proclaim the good news.